So it is Thursday, and I am joined by a Total Wipeout champion who's a Ninja Warrior attemptee, we'll call that.
Yes.
Attemptee, and
I definitely haven't made it on, yeah.
and a huge cycling enthusiast. So, of course, with it being New Year, the valuable points is doing something so extreme, the mindset and all this. So, guys, we won't be too long, only about 15 minutes. So if there is any comments or questions, obviously drop them in, hit the subscribe, make sure you don't miss out on any future live sessions. But otherwise, John, my Total Wipeout champion, who's taken time out of his day to join me. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Do you know what? Actually, because my day job's cleaning windows, it's pouring with rain here, so it turns out I couldn't do any work today. So it's actually I'm having quite a relaxing day.
So literally was a Total Wipeout.
It was, yes. Yeah, I was
Okay,
on an obstacle course with mud and water, and my job revolves around mud and water because some of people's gardens are quite muddy, and actually there are like obstacle courses in their own right on some occasions.
So we've actually
done the show actually.
Done your favour. There you go. You see, done your favour and all this.
So do you know what I said? Sorry. Yeah, go on.
You carry on. I was going to ask you a question. You had a point there that was valid. So.
No, I was just going to say this was one of the points they asked me on the show. How have you prepared for this? And I said, if you've seen what I have to jump over, garden walls and all the other obstacles, I said that's almost a little bit like what's out on the set by here. And surprisingly, quite a few things did come in useful. So I never thought cleaning windows would actually help me on an obstacle course, but it did.
So when you applied for Total Wipeout, obviously you knew you had the physical element. There was,
Yeah.
Which did you prepare more for, physically or mentally for it?
It was a little bit of both. I think on the mental side, the toughest part was we had no practice at the course. So you can't go in there assuming like, oh, that's easy, I'm going to do well, because you don't know. When the klaxon goes, that is your one and only attempt. You're shown the course. And so for me, it was all about I had to have my head in the right place in order to do it, because it's so easy. If you fall off an obstacle, mentally, you might say to yourself, oh, it's rubbish now, it's all over. But like, even when you spoke to James, James Scott, friend who 1 hour series, his mindset, doesn't matter if you fall in, just keep moving forward. And there are people way, way fitter than me who didn't do as well on the show because their head wasn't in the right place. And that seemed to be a common theme. People that you wouldn't think would do well, did well because they had it right up here, the right approach.
Well, I'm sorry. James is just one of these people that as soon as he said he was doing it, I was like, yeah, you're going to do well. It's going. You're good. But
yeah.
So we're talking mindset then, because obviously mindset was obviously a key player in the game. When did you find it tested the most?
It was more, I would say it was in the champion show, because that was on my second episode, because that was the first time I fell in the mud pits, and they're like 4 foot deep. I wasn't used to that. I'll be honest, for a brief moment, my head went to pieces. And then it was a case of, no, wait a minute. You got to think where you are. You got to snap out of this and keep going. So that was little moments. And another one, do you remember that sweeper game when you're on a podium and the bar comes around?
Yep.
And you have to jump over it. Right. With that one, that's one of those games where you can fall off on other obstacles and you just carry on with that. If you fall off, you're out of the game. And I remember my mindset just before the game started was just focus on the first jump. Don't think about trying to get into the next round. That's not important. Focus, just when the bar comes around, just make sure you clear it. And I was too afraid to look around at what everyone else is doing. I thought, I've got to focus on myself. And then eventually when I fall in, let's see what happens. After a while, I looked around and there was only 4 of us left up there. There was 12 of us and we were down to 4. I didn't even look. And I then found out that it was the top 6 into the next round. So then I relaxed a little bit, and then I forgot the bar was coming, and it knocked me off. So I came in third on that one. So yeah, you get thrown around like a rag doll on it.
I like what you've just highlighted there, because it was a case of, rather than looking at the big picture, looking at that moment, exactly where you are. So did you sort of forget the fact that you've got TV cameras on you and there was all sorts going on around you and everything like this?
Yeah, the only time I remember the TV cameras at the qualifier at the start, when you're at the top of the course, when people have to say their stupid shout outs and everything.
Yeah.
At that point, you look around and all you can see is a bunch of TV crew and a bunch of cameras pointing at you. that time, that is the scariest I've ever been. More scary than any marathon or any rowing race I've ever done. Once you get started on the course, you forget the cameras are there. And we later found out we forgot that we all have microphones, and whatever we're saying amongst ourselves, they can hear every word we're saying. So we found out from the producers later. They said, "Yeah, you do realise we can hear everything you're saying amongst yourselves." Yeah.
Oh, was any of that shared on TV?
No, no. Funny enough, I'll tell you what happens. A lot of people, when they fall off things, involuntary, you will say something that's usually a 4-letter word or something like that. There was a lot. They had to bleep out a lot of things, or they just dropped the sound a little bit. Like someone bumped their head into something, like oh, like that sort of thing. So it's all right. I wasn't going to say any words. Yeah. So yeah, there was a few moments. A few moments like that, but it's quite funny when you get like a bar sort of whack into you and like throw you spinning around, and because you honestly, you don't know where you are. It doesn't hurt, but you just you don't know what planet you're on almost.
Yeah. So you obviously, when you're like disorientated in that sort of fashion, because it's obviously, you're saying it's like quite a brief moment. Did you find your emotions run high? Your emotions just went completely out the window.
I'll tell you what, in the round that I went out in the champion show was on the sweeper, because I came 6th in that. I won my first show, 6th in the champions. All I remember was that when there was a massive pilot, there was 9 of us still up there. They couldn't get us off, so they sped the bar up. And then 8 out of 9 of us went down in one go. You know, it was just like Skittles going down. And I remember I suddenly realised I mistimed my jump. The bar was about to sort of crash into me. And next thing I knew, I was spun around, hit the water. I look up and it was like I was watching Final Destination, you know, with like everyone's just carnage everywhere. So it was just stuff like that. It happened so quickly. You literally, you know, certain things in life happen. You just can't prepare for it. It's just an instinctive reaction. My instinctive reaction was, well, I didn't jump in at the right point. I fell in. So, you know.
Did you find it easy to like catch yourself? Because obviously with that, there's a lot going on one after the other. You're quite paced through, aren't you? Do you find it easy to recapture your thoughts to focus on the next, because you've just said focus on the now, the jump and stuff, or were
especially on that sweeper event in the champion show, it got to the point the bar was coming around about every 4 seconds, maybe 5 seconds. Bearing in mind, at the bar you had to jump about 1.10 meters, so about 42 inches was the maximum height of the bar, and we were having to clear that. You're on a spongy platform which absorbs you anyway, but it's amazing how fear just makes you jump, because it's either jump or you're going to get slammed almost into another country. So literally I would say the sweeper is the game. Mentally you have to be absolutely 100%. If you lose concentration for a sec, well, one guy did, the one who started the pilot, he just lost concentration for a second, and then next thing you knew the bar was at his chest and he couldn't do it, and he got hit so hard he got hit like halfway back into the water. So mentally, I would say Wipeout is more mental than physical. Yeah, you've got to have your head in the right place. So that's where James did so well, because his mind was absolutely spot on.
He's just like, let's go for it. Let's just go for it.
That, and he's machine,
also very relaxed. He's very relaxed with it. But let's take the mindset into the application.
It was, yeah.
Because when obviously we sort of made the joke. Okay, so guys, if you are listening, John applied for Total Wipeout, got through and won. He applied for Ninja Warrior a couple of times and has been turned down every single time. And so let's talk about the application, the mindset. Was there
I have 100% failure rate.
Yeah. Was there a different mindset with your applications? Yeah.
Yeah, it was, it's a funny one. I remember the audition, and the opposite, the challenges on that wasn't trying to pick the fittest for that series. They were trying to pick a mixture of abilities across the board, and they were trying to work out what category you slotted into. The crucial bit was afterwards, you have about 1 or 2 minutes with the producers, and I think it's what you say on camera is critical, how you come across. And I think it was just some days you just say the wrong things and it just doesn't quite come out right. And I think, I remember the one thing I learned with that, I mean, maybe I'm wrong. If you're auditioning for a show and you've been on something else, never mention the other show that you've been on. Because I mentioned that and I saw the guy behind the camera just roll his eyes. And at that point I thought, okay, I probably messed this one up. I did. So, I would just say it was just, Yeah, because do you know what? I actually remembered there was another show that I auditioned for in 2017, and we all got to sit in a room and watch each other do their interviews in front of the producer. And this one guy talked about the other TV shows he's been on, and when I watched it, it was cringe. And then it made me realize, I thought, that's exactly what I did in Ninja Warrior. I thought, no wonder they didn't pick me, because that was just, I don't know, that's probably like someone going on a date and then talking about their ex-girlfriend or something. It's probably not a good thing.
But it's also what you've just said about the sweeper going around, focusing on that moment. It's not about what's happened the jump before. It's not the one that's coming. It's literally where you are.
Yeah. And it's funny, on that point, especially with the sweeper, I remember one of the guys in our show, he was really, really good and potentially could have gone to the final. He made a comment that day. His thoughts, he was thinking about what the procedure was for the final, but we still had to do the sweeper. Then there was another round and then the final. And because he was thinking too far ahead, I mean, I saw how high he could jump, but he messed up early on the sweeper. Not a reflection of his ability. It was just his thought wasn't there at that moment. That's the impression I got, because this one guy probably should have been in the final, but I would say it was probably just mindset. Like, I messed up my Ninja Warrior interview thing. I think his mindset was just not quite, the right spot. So like you said, focusing on the moment is so crucial.
Yeah, because obviously to be fair, Total Wipeout, just doing it is an achievement. This should not be undervalued. That's an achievement.
Getting picked was a real shock. I remember when I got the phone call, I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh, because I'd auditioned for Gladiators a few months earlier, and I got turned down. I got so close. I danced about the last 200 from like 7,000. That really hurt, because that was the show I always wanted to do. And then I applied for this, wasn't too sure how it'd go, and then suddenly I was like, oh, I got through. Oh my goodness me! It's like, yeah. It was.
So the jury was Gladiators.
Yes.
We did Total Wipeout. We carried Total Wipeout with us to try and do Ninja Warrior, which didn't really.
Yeah. Didn't really work out. Yeah.
So what's the next in the alignment? What's coming up? Is there any others?
What? Yeah. Well, my main target is I got to get back in shape again, because the last few years I've a few injuries, a few too many cream cakes, that sort of stuff. So basically, focus on getting my weight back down. I know what shape I have to be in if I want to attempt like Ninja Warrior or even Gladiators is coming back. I mean, that is a bit of a bucket list sort of thing. So realistically, I think this year's a bit too soon, but next year we'll see what happens. I think trying Gladiators next year would be quite funny, because then I'll be about 48 or 49, so I'd literally be twice the age of half the people on there. So it'd be like Granddad telling war stories or something,
Hey, you never know, but this is half of the fun of it, because you started off cycling, didn't you?
It was actually rowing. The cycling's been more recent. Rowing was my first thing that I started with, and to be honest, that came from out of nowhere. It started with a poster in the gym. This was back in my early 20s, not the 1920s. My 20s. I'm not that old. So, just to clarify, and it was a poster to enter the British indoor rowing champ. So I thought I would just go along for a bit of a laugh, and it turned out all the Team GB guys were there. So it was like you was literally could compare yourself to Olympic people. And I just got totally caught up in the sport, and that ended up taking a big part of my life. And then the cycling's been more sort of recent, racing on Zwift and stuff. But the rowing, I set a few. I mean, was it 5 world records I've set over the years. I think one of them still stands. And then I coached a team. What was that? 19 years ago, and it was 10 men on one rowing machine diving on and off every few sets. It's like a 100-meter relay you see at the athletics.
Yeah.
That sort of type thing. Used to be held by Team GB. I helped coach a team that beat it, and that record still stands. So the rowing was a big part of my life, but the Total Wipeout, the Gladiator type thing, that's the fun side of what I really enjoyed, being a big kid.
But would you say then, staying with a big kid, that half the mindset and the sort of fun of it is because you are allowing yourself to have fun?
Yes. Yeah, very much so. It's someone said to me that I can't remember what it was. Someone said that deep down, they said, I think we're all still little kids, really. That little playful sort of side you have growing up. I don't think that ever really leaves you. It's always sort of there. And of course, now we've got all these Ninja Warrior parks opening up. That's just a chance to still be a really, really big kid. So yes, I have been popping along to a couple of them. So I have been trying to dabble a little bit. It turns out I'm quite good at the falling down bit at the moment because I'm a bit heavy.
Yeah, I'll go with that one.
Yeah.
Well,
It's
John,
fun trying
thank
though.
you.
So, yeah.
Thank you for joining. And if anyone's tuning in, obviously you can connect with John. You can find out some of his interviews with other winners, celebrities, and wow people from these ninjas. Have we got any ninjas in there? But there's some Wipeout winners.
Yeah. It's been a mixture of Total Wipeout contestants, Ninja Warrior contestants. I've even spoken to a couple of Gladiator contestants, which I'm hoping to interview later this year as well. So,
Amazing.
yeah.
So head over.
I'm learning things from them as well.
So, okay, so we're going to head over to John's YouTube. We're going to watch out for these old interviews. We're going to look out for the new ones, and then we're going to look at all these tips coming into action when John puts it into play, even if it's in that Ninja Warrior park. We're going to see it happen. So otherwise, John, thank you for your time and have a fabulous evening ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Liz. It's been great chatting.